Alright, in theory, the stream has started. Let's maximize this window, because that's always fun. Don't use a Mac very often. There we go, that's the magic button. Cool. So, everybody at home, we're starting the AmpGuard of Alaska Board of Directors meeting for February 21st, and it is 8:09 p.m. So we'll do this as a call to order. I said 8:09. All right. So the first item on the agenda is that we need to assign a vice president, and that position is spelled out in the bylaws. And so I think we already had a volunteer, right?
Well, real quick question. Do we need to make a call to start the meeting?
We can. It depends on how much you want to dig into the Robert's Rules of Order. I tend to go a little fast and loose with it. I pick out the elements that are super useful. If you'd like to go more formal, we can certainly do that. No,
that's just the way I'm used to it. I'm fine going without it.
Okay. For the relatively small group we have, I like to go a little more informal, but stop me if you want to change it up. So, vice president position, do we still have that volunteer? Is that you, Victor? Okay. Does somebody want to officially second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so Michelle is seconding. Hunter volunteers. Michelle, Casey seconds. Logan missed his chance to second. All right, let's just go straight to a vote for that, unless you guys want to have any discussion, questions, or concerns about that. No? Okay.
I have a question.
You have a question?
Sure. Don't bail on me.
Sorry, yeah, you're cutting out a little bit. It's like the second word comes through, but I'm missing the first one. All right, anyway, so let's just let's go as a vote. And I'm just going to go across the line here that I have on the bottom of my screen. So, Doug, that'll be you first. Yay or nay for assigning Victor Hunter to be the vice president?
Yay.
Yay. One yes. Victor, vote for yourself or save yourself. Are you saying no? You want to go? Is that your final answer?
No.
Okay,
Good.
so we're going to go with the yay. Cameron, you get to vote. What's that?
Yes.
Yes, cool. We skip Jason and we go straight to Logan.
Yes.
Yes. Michelle.
Yes.
Cool. So we have, and I'll say yes too. So we have a unanimous yes. All right. Next position we need to assign the liaison officer position. That one's also detailed in the bylaws. The primary component of it is thinking of being as the interface between the BOD and external organizations, such as the police department, as an example. But it could also be other things too. So if we have official board business with another entity, this could be the person that's asked to do some of that communication. So do we have a volunteer for that position? Yay, nay. All right. Does anybody have any interest? Did we want? Does anybody have any questions about the position? All right.
If you could just go into more details about it.
Bylaws. You want to pop that open? Do you have access to that real easily?
Yeah.
I am pulling it open slowly on my computer. And I can read off the explicit description. Okay. A regional executive officer shall be elected by the board to serve in the position of board liaison, who shall, 1, be the primary point of contact for those wishing to contact the board, 2, maintain a mailing and phone list of all agencies the board is contracted to, and 3, maintain copies of all contracts between the board and any other corporation. So they'd be working fairly closely with with Cameron for some of that stuff. Does that kind of help answer what you're looking for? Yeah. Okay. Hey, Michelle, would you be interested in being the liaison?
I cannot. I have a number of other things outside of AmpGuard that I have to be a part of. I don't have the time.
Okay. Hey, Logan, would you be interested in being the liaison?
No.
No.
I can be the liaison.
Can you?
If you want me to.
A regional executive officer.
Oh, does it say an REO?
It does.
Okay, then it's got to be one of you guys.
Yep.
Okay, I'll get it.
Okay. So we have Logan stepping up. That's tribute. I mean, what? Does anybody want to second him before he, changes his
I'll
mind?
second that.
All right, Michelle seconds. See? She's got it. All right, let's do a quick vote. Doug.
Yay.
Yay. Victor.
Yay.
Cameron.
Yes.
Logan.
Whoa. Yeah.
Is that a yay? Okay. Michelle.
Yay.
Okay. And I'll say yay too. So let's go with unanimous yes. Oh, if I could spell the word yes anymore. All right. So here's a little bit of record keeping, kind of cleanup.
Babe, you can watch it without the lag if you come in here.
We need to do a vote to transfer the bank accounts. They are currently in Amanda Brooks's name, and we need to transfer them to Cameron Taylor. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about that? No? Okay. So let's just go straight to a vote.
One thing right quick. Just to be clear, the minutes need to show that this is a Denali FCU account, account number 196376.
Okay, are you writing that in the notes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have the file open that I do too? Do you have edit privileges? If you want to just put in that account.
I think I have it in yours, but I will double check.
Okay, I don't see it in this one yet, but I assume you'll.
No, I've got it on my own notes.
Okay.
I just wanted to be clear that I've been in contact with Denali, and they specified that did need to be in the minutes specifically, the institution and the account number.
Okay. So yeah, not something that we're all individually keeping track of, but we know which account we're all talking about. Yeah, there we go. Got it in my notes. Cool. So Denali Federal Credit Union account number 196376, in case anybody's missed that. And that's the primary account for AmpGuard of Alaska. Are there other accounts, or is everything underneath this one account number?
I think that's the only account that I know of. There's like sub accounts.
Okay, but they're all under this primary parent account?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
At least all of the ones that I have access to and am aware of at this time.
Okay. So let's do this as a vote. So, Douglas, yay or nay? I said Douglas. Doug, yay. I got a thumbs up. Cool, thank you. Victor.
Yay.
Yay. Cameron.
Yes.
Logan.
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Cool. Unanimous, yes. Awesome, no questions there. All right. Do you have the account number for the Frozen Coast account?
Frozen Coast
Or do we need to, or is it a separate number? I guess assume it'd be the same number, right?
It's 196376 S31.3.
Okay. If you want to do the same edit as before. But so this next item is the transfer of Frozen Coast's account to Ariel Carlson, who's stepping in as the local prime minister, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Did my Facebook post go through on Frozen Coast?
your Facebook post for the BOD CoC meeting did go through. I haven't seen the one where you announced Ariel Carlson, though.
Sorry, I wasn't asking you guys that. I should have muted myself.
Hey, you're good. But is that right? Is that Ariel Carson's going to be your guys' local PM?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we're all on the same page. All right, so let's just do a quick vote on that one, unless anybody needs to add anything or have any questions. Nope, going once, going twice. Cameron.
Okay, so there are 3 levels of access. There's like, let me go back to the email right quick. There's representative, who authorizes a signer for transactions and account changes. There's signer, which lets them transact on behalf of the business, but they don't have signing authority for account changes. And there's info user. So I'm assuming either signer or representative for this one.
Yeah, the second, the middle one.
I would go with signer.
Yeah. So transfer Frozen Coast account to Ariel Carson as signer, and that's a designation for Denali Federal Credit Union. And I'm gonna put that as the same thing for any of these for the local PMs.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so let's do this as a vote. Okay, so the question is, would you guys like to assign Ariel Carlson as a signer, known within the Denali Federal Credit Union system, to the account that we know as Frozen Coast's account? So, Doug, yay or nay?
Yay.
Victor?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Logan?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Jumping straight down, same question for Wayne Watt to be signer for Lupin Moon's account. Wayne Watt is currently, that's Runehart. He's the prime minister for Lupin Moon. So same question, go. Doug, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay. Victor? Yes? Yes, cool. Cameron?
Yes.
Logan?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Cool. Unanimous, yes. Alrighty. Okay, so this one's kind of informational, since everybody on the board here basically already knows this. So we had a situation come up regarding Sage Thomas acting as the Regional Executive Officer for Icefire Bay. She has previously already fulfilled 2 terms in that position, and this current one would be her 3rd, which is in violation of the bylaws as currently written. And so in order to, for a whole bunch of reasons, including the fact that, nobody else ran, we don't want to shun a volunteer, and the smooth operation for the organization, the BOD voted and unanimously agreed to allow her to fulfill that position, with the caveat that we're going to make an amendment to the bylaws and the admin manual is appropriate to look at this issue. So that's the next item. But I just wanted to verify that we're all on board. Nobody has any questions, concerns, or confusion about what we voted on, and that everybody's aware that, yes, we saw the issue and we took care of it internally at the board level. Does anybody have any comments they want to make regarding that? Nope. Cool. All right, I'm going to move on. So we need to draft an amendment that we're going to press through the all thing, because I think it's more appropriate that we do this through an all thing. We could technically do a change through the board, but I think this is okay. Well, either way, we're going to do this as an all thing. And so, can I get a volunteer to draft that amendment, basically, to look at the bylaws and the admin manual and figure out where we need to make changes so that we can look at term limits and work that out internally.
Do we know what direction we want that to go?
Yeah, that's going to be my question.
Yeah.
Because I'll draft something right now. It's just remove term limits.
Well, right, but we got to find all the spots that it's referenced, and I don't think that we should. So my personal opinion would be, I think we should keep term limits for the king position for the kingdom monarch, and remove them basically for everybody else, including regents, because they're the only other ones that for some reason have term limits assigned to them. That would be where I think we should go, but
I don't think we'll ever find somebody that wants to be king for 3 straight years. And even if we did, I think it'd be okay to let the kingdom vote on it, because all term limits does is make it so they're not allowed to even vote.
That's true.
In general, I'm
concern would be if the crazy person doesn't realize they need to take a break. This would be the hint. But the populace could also
that's
be
a personal choice
too.
of theirs, right? I mean, like in general, I'm not a fan of things that limit what the populace can even vote on. But in the past, historically, the term limits were in place to prevent like a single individual from having too much power over a great deal of time. But the way we've structured our kingdom, we've put most of that power or executive authority into a group decision-making process. So the risks really aren't there. And I think that the Council of Crowns acts as a check and balance that would normally have been covered by the term limits. And so I don't think that they serve any real business purpose anymore.
I agree for the most part. I was just thinking from the personal experience of sitting in this position that
I agree. I don't think anybody would ever do it for 3 years.
No, for 3 years, no. And I also wanted to avoid any notion of anybody thinking that there was a power grab or anything crazy here. So I don't think that anybody really has that thought, but it was just do you guys want to nudge it in a different direction? Do we want to let Jason draft the appropriate amendments and changes and submit it to us for forwarding to an all thing? If he's got the time to make all those little text edits and tweaks and get it formatted correctly, I'm all for it.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to redirect the amount, like scale it back or change what direction we're going towards right now? No? Okay. Well, we'll get feedback from the populace when it, either through messages here shortly or or that whole thing. So,
yeah. My only concern would be if the populace is strongly objects to removing all term limits, we'd have to, I guess, go back to the drawing board on potentially removing term limits for secondary regions. Because I do think, at the very least, those should go away.
Yeah, definitely for the regional positions at the very least. I think if you remove it from regional positions, you got to remove it from regions. I don't understand why regions should.
Just to be clear, we're the situation in Icefire Bay is resolved for this term.
It is.
Okay, so we've got like a reasonable 4 or 5 months to resolve this before it may come up again.
Before it could come up again.
Okay, yeah. So we had time to put an amendment out, and if the populace votes it down, go back to the drawing board.
Yes.
Okay.
Though it is one of the, it's kind of low hanging fruit, so it'd be nice to get it done too.
It's fair.
Sooner rather than later. All right. Awesome. Thank you for volunteering to look at that. All right. So jumping up to the next item. Down, up, down, whatever. Taxes. I don't remember what I was going to say about it. I put it on the item, but I already conferred with our oh man, the brain is shutting down, with our secretary treasurer, and he's on top of it, and I believe you're getting that started. Is that right, Cameron?
You had commented that you'd want it on the agenda just as a point of interest, that we have not forgotten it or overlooking it or anything, that
Right.
We're on top of it.
Right. We have not forgotten it. It is not April yet, so we're not overdue, and we've got a little bit of time, and we're going to try to get it done early, right?
Yep.
Earlier the better. All right. So, yeah. Does anybody have any other business for the board tonight? No?
Not really business, but informative. We are not updated on, our directors are not showing us updated on the State of Alaska website, so our account stuff with Denali won't actually be able to go through until that actually updates.
Okay, but have the forms been submitted to make that update happen?
That is my understanding.
Okay. Well, hopefully the state gets that figured out sooner rather than later. So
yeah, I don't know what the normal lead time is between mailing them the forms and the website getting updated. So.
Okay. Alrighty. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Nope. Okay. Getting head nods and people dozing off. So, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
I don't know. People second it. So, all in favor? Yay, aye, thumbs up on your screens. Yay, aye, cool.
Yay.
Yay, cool. All right, so we're going to close it out at 8:29 p.m. Cool. So the BOD meeting is done. Make sure that saves properly. And you got all your notes and everything you need for your end of things, Cameron? Okay. All right, CoC meeting. So in attendance, looks like we've got myself, Lupin Moon, Ravenstone, Astral Winds, and Frozen Coast, and some guests. Kingdom Prime Minister and Goran, that adds up. Cool. So first item on the agenda, Dungeon Crawl wrap up. How did it turn out? Basically.
I think it turned out pretty good. We had all the hurdles that we foresaw were definitely present in one form or another. So we only had 4 months to put it together. But at the very beginning of that, I told you guys I felt confident that we could make it successful, at least break even, within that 4 months. So we didn't have a ton of time to advertise, but me and the team put a lot of time and effort into spreading the word, and we had a lot of people show up that were not in Amtgard. So I thought that was really good, and it bodes well for what we might accomplish in the future with a full year to set this event up. So I'm sure most folks are interested in hearing numbers. I don't have the exact attendance numbers in front of me. I would need to check with Hadelin, but we did have 207 paying customers. So that doesn't count, or at least 207 people that processed through Square for attendance. So we had a number of staff members and volunteers that didn't have to pay and didn't register for any events, so they weren't recorded through Square either. Right. So let's see here. You guys gave me a budget of $10,000, which was awesome, and I appreciate that. I spent so far $8,241.11 of that. I do have in my line items here a miscellaneous budget of $500 that has not been spent yet, that I'm just sort of keeping aside to wrap up the little things that haven't been tied up. I don't imagine that it will be even nearly $500, but
so that's in the 8,200 is a $500 that probably
no. So the total expense I've got is $8741.11. $500 that has not been spent, but there's a few things that we need to do that I'm going to stick into this budget because they are at least semi-appropriate.
Yeah.
So all of those black plastic bins that we were using, those are all mine. I bought them in getting ready for my house move here soon. But so there's, I think, 4 or 5 of those that were used to put stuff into the storage shed. And then I've got a bunch of all the Amtgard stuff I have in my shop. I'm going to use those bins to store them up and then just pay to replace them. So we'll have those for storage for events and things. And so that'll be like $90. And I know like Abram is owed $35. So if actually, since you're here, Corin, if you could make a note to find a way to get that to him on Saturday, that would be really awesome. He bought some games and controllers so that we would have those available, and I promised to split that cost with him.
35, you said?
35, yeah. Actually, 10 of that is for shipping a controller back to one of our attendees that forgot it. The other 25 is for the game/controllers. Okay. And there's just I don't have all the receipts from Hadeland, I have a total for what she spent on Feast, but not all the actual receipts. I'm not sure if there's anything left to be reimbursed. And that sort of was going to come out of that $500 if anything came up. So, but if we were to just spend that, we'll say I spent $8,700. So about $1,300 less than the budget that was given to me. Now, on top of that, after we subtract, I had a couple of refunds that we did. We did a whole bunch of money in discounts. But when it was all said and done, our net income was $12,635.52. So right now, minus whatever I don't spend for that 500, we're sitting at a net profit of $3,894.41, which I think makes it the most profitable like event we've had outside of the state fair, maybe.
I didn't keep up with your saying the numbers. Net income
That's
of
okay.
12,635.52. Net profit of
3,894.41. So we made approximately $4,000 in profit off of this event, which again, with limited time to set it up, limited time to coordinate the non-AmpGuard folks, and very little time to advertise, I was pretty happy with that. I was hoping to break even, at the $10,000. And so we came in way under budget. We made a pretty decent amount of profit. So there's one thing that I would like the CoC to consider for next dungeon crawl, and if we want to continue doing this format, which would be my personal recommendation, the more money we put into it, the more we're likely to get out of it, right? The more value people see in the event, the more popular it will become, and word of mouth is really big for these kinds of events. So I would ask you guys to consider raising the budget considerably over what is currently in the budget right now. I recommended $8,000 when you guys were building the budget, based on the idea that I had no idea what kind of response we were going to get for this. But after getting the response that we did, realistically, I think you guys should take whatever money we made and just set that aside for next year. That would be my recommendation. Because then next year we can do more, and it will hopefully grow and grow and grow and grow. So, I mean, when I was, again, the very first SenchiCon I ever went to probably only had 200 or 300 people show up to it. And again, now, they've got 8,000. So that happens by continuing to pump, value into the event. A couple of quick shout outs while I'm talking about this stuff. Mara and the Tavern team, fantastic job. We had a net gross income of $3,243.17 in the tavern. So that's pretty awesome. That means that we made $9,635 just in admission fees. So right at that $10,000 that I was shooting for is what we made in admission, and then we made a little over $3,000 selling food and booze. So those are good numbers. I'm very happy with that, and I know Mara's team worked their butts off, and which is why. She spent, to give you an idea there, where'd that go? We spent approximately $1,900 in the tavern. Now, a lot of that, so that includes not just the cost of food and everything, but the cost of plates and forks and all of that stuff.
Right.
So profit on that was about 50%, it looks like. So pretty reasonable. If we wanted to raise prices on some things, we probably could. But yeah, I know that she had to make several runs to get more stuff all throughout the event. So
that's good. That means that we weren't, overbuying.
No, typically we sell about, when we do a Wolf's Cry, we sell $800 to $900 worth of booze, and we doubled that, which makes sense because we have about twice as many people there. Right. So, so that's good. And those are, if we look at the number of attendees for the event, we can look at historical like Wolf's Cries and things like that to get a pretty reasonable estimate of what we need to spend and what we're going to make in income. So so that worked out pretty well. I am this. Well, I'm in the middle of writing it. I'm hoping to have it done by this weekend. I'm going to send out a Survey Monkey to everybody that attended, since I have all of their email addresses, and hopefully get some good feedback on what was good about the event, what was bad, how we can fix things. Like I've already got some ideas on how it can be laid out a little bit differently. It might work better, so I can pass that on to whoever's in charge of it next year. And I've already started working with some non-AmpGuard organizers to help organize different parts of the event. One of the DMs, if you remember, her name was Aubriana. She's very interested in organizing the D&D stuff as well as being a DM. So that kind of goes along with where the path that I think we should take and getting sort of that stuff contracted out. I started talking to the gentleman that owns Warehouse 49. And we may be able to potentially set up some sort of agreement with him to run the esports stuff. So there's definitely some ways that we can do it. And if we want to do this right, I think that some of our key volunteers we need to kind of treat as employees and potentially even pay. I know that I gave cash to two of the DMs, the ones that were there pretty much every hour that we were open, and that had like the really amazing setups and people at their tables the whole time. I paid them. And I'd like to be able to do that for, some of our other folks that come in and just, they bring a ton of value, because there were a lot of people that showed up just to play D&D the whole event. And so, it's worth it to get really high class or, good professional people in there to run those activities for us, because it makes us money.
I mean, I talked to some groups of people that drove all the way from Kenai, literally just for the D&D.
Yep. And I think we can expand that and do some better things with it next year too. So we definitely got a good idea of what works and what doesn't, and how we can approach it next time to make things even better. I'm actually really excited about the potential for what we can do with this in the future, and how much fun it can be for our community. So those are kind of the numbers. Does anybody have any questions? I can break it down even farther. I'm not going to go into it all unless somebody has specific questions, but I've got some pretty granular details on expense and income here.
Not
No
at
questions?
the moment, no. Are you
Okay.
planning on putting a bid in to do this again next year?
When's the bid deadline?
It was originally at some point this month. I think
Okay.
it was laid out as the 25th or 26th, something like next week. But seeing as the competition for submitting
Well, I mean,
bids for
at this
that
point,
is-
my bid would pretty much consist of the sentence like DC5, but better.
So the
I
thing
mean-
I would request in the bid would be spell out the budget numbers and a little paragraph on justification for that.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be
I could
my
definitely
biggest.
include some notes. Like, I'd love to have a nicer advertising budget, buy a little bit of radio time, things like that. But yeah, I can put something together if you guys are interested in that. And I could probably run it again.
So our next meeting would be the 7th of March. So it's 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
I say I'm looking at extending the deadline to basically be March 5th.
Okay.
That gives me 2 days to share with the team here anybody's bid submissions for wanting to run DC next year. Just that way we're being fair. If anybody has a thing that they want to
that's totally reasonable. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but actually, so I had to I flew out like the day after Dungeon Crawl, right, to go teach classes at Symposium in Winter's Edge. But how many new people did everybody see after Dungeon Crawl? Was there anybody that came out?
I think there was a couple of them that showed up at Loop and Moon. I know.
Logan says one.
Was that one or two? One. Okay.
What about in Loop and Moon?
I'm not sure about that came because of Dungeon Crawl, but we have had 2 or 3 new faces over the last couple of weeks.
Okay. I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but we included a rule book in like every single packet when people came in, which we were able to include in our printing budget and stuff. So we passed out like 200 rule books. So hopefully that helped. But I know a lot more people are aware of who we are now. So yay.
Does anybody have any other questions about DC? Nope. Okay, so let's burn through the rest of the list here. So we needed a place to store items right after, right while DC was being closed up and cleaned up. So Hadelin and I were looking at, and Jason were looking at rental facilities that were nearby, and we picked one. And as as we went to go actually rent the space to give ourselves some, the plan was we were going to rent the space for at least a couple months while we figured out what our long-term storage solution was. And so we had a quick CoC meeting, everybody agreed, and we moved forward with that plan. As we were about to go actually rent the small, whatever, 10 by 10 unit
10 by
space.
10, yeah.
We noticed on there that there was a Connex for rent, that you could just rent a Connex for, instead of, was it $70 a month for the normal space? For the 10 by 10 or whatever it was, for $100 a month, you can just rent the whole Connex. What, an 8 by 40? Is that right?
No, it's I want to say it's like 10 by 20. It's like a 20-foot Connex.
A 20-foot Connex. Okay.
Yeah, so it was twice as much space as what we were looking at.
For less than twice the amount.
Yes, only $20 more.
But that pretty much covered what I think we needed for space needs, right? I haven't physically been there, but by the accounts that I heard, we have plenty of space right now. And so that rental is currently at $100 a month. So it's kind of an informational item. Yeah, I said that word right. So going forward, we could choose to maintain that rental at $100 a month. It would take us, how much did we budget? $3,000. So it would take us just under
Be 2.5 years.
2.5 years before we hit that budget. Or we could still try to save up and deal with all the logistics concerning purchasing a Connex and finding a place to place it. So at the moment, I'm going to just leave it as an informational piece and say we are currently renting a Connex for $100 a month. And as far as like our current budget goes, we will come in way under budget for that. And so going forward, I'll ask you guys and see if we want to make movement on still trying to purchase one in the future, and again, figuring out all the logistic components for that, or if we want to just maintain renting it. But for the very moment, let's just stick with renting. Any argument there? No.
Yeah, can we move the access funds over to the castle?
So I had that thought too. We'll get Everblocks is at the end. We'll get to discussing Everblocks at the end when we get there. But there, I did have a thought like that. So, anyways, somebody pointed out that they wanted to have a discussion. I think that we should discuss the notion of alcohol at events, and this spurred from a decision that we had to make. Was it almost 2 weeks ago? I guess it was on the 9th, right? So, just shy of 2 weeks ago, where we had to issue an indefinite suspension for somebody. And they happen to have been drinking potentially during that night. But I don't think that we made that decision based solely on alcohol consumption or anything like that. There were other reasons that we made that decision. But somebody pointed out that that we should be discussing alcohol at events. And so I'm going to open the floor up to you guys. I have some personal thoughts on that, but I want to open that up for the rest of you first. So Doug, did you have any thoughts on alcohol at events that you wanted to share?
I think we made a lot of profit off it. And I think if you can't handle your alcohol, you deserve to be banned. I think everything's fine as it is. Honestly.
Okay. Victor, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share
Yeah, I'd like to specify real quick that I'm not against alcohol at being at an event. I just want, I think what the member was trying to say as well is that we are a organization, and it's not just to a person who does something solely responsible of that person. It also falls back to, and there are some regulations here from what that member said on the comment, to the organization that served the alcohol. So if you serve enough alcohol to a person that they become inebriated, that in some cases, it sounds like, that fault can come back to the person that did the serving. So I think specifically moving forward, what we need to discuss is recognizing when or if somebody is getting to a point that they should not be drinking, and then striking them off of a list. That's my thoughts. It's what I got from the comment. But that's all I got.
Okay. Cameron, since you're here, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share? You're welcome. Jump in on here if you want.
Not particularly. I'm not fully up to speed on laws regarding alcohol serving and etc.
Okay. Jason, did you want to share anything at this point?
So, I mean, it sort of depends. I think maybe we should set up if it's something we want to look into, that we should actually set up a special meeting, or even if you wanted to, a committee for it to sort of review that situation. So, I mean, generally, I don't know. I don't want to make any. I mean, I've read through all these laws in the past when we first started doing this. Generally for my remembering of that, and I would want to refresh my memory, but my remembering is that the things that we're responsible for are not serving to minors, not allowing alcohol to be taken off the premises, things like that. There's we don't carry the same liability that a business, like basically a bar, does as far as serving people. But that being said, if that was a real concern of the organization, it would be less about us serving it and more about whether or not we have it at all. And I'll tell you right now, my trips to Solstice War, if they've taught me anything, is that our members drink a lot more when they bring their own alcohol than they do when we provide it. Because we provide beer and wine, you know. When they go to Solstice War, they provide Goldschlager and Bacardi 151. So the alcohol consumption is very different, and I typically don't see people get dangerously drunk outside of Solstice War. So I mean, it depends on what the actual issue is. Now, I will say that there have been some pretty cool studies that have been released in the last few years. A really good one that came out of Purdue, actually, that discusses, you know, alcohol and the effects that it has on people's personalities, right? And that, you know, scientifically, it's been studied, and you don't become a different person when you're drunk. You just stop faking who you really are, and that's the truth of it. You know, you're drunk you, that's the you, and the rest of the day, you know, you just find a way to hide that from everybody. So if somebody's drunk you is somebody that we don't want around, that's something that you need to consider. That's not a separate person because they were drinking. That's just who they are when they don't feel inhibited, and that may be something we want to consider as well. So,
are we suggesting everybody needs to drink some so we know who the real you is? No.
Well, I mean, there's an experiment in that.
There is, right? Science for science.
I know. And at the couple of events that I've drunk at, I sing a lot more karaoke. That's the real me.
All right. Logan, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share?
No, not really. I have absolutely no idea of the legal realities of it, or liability or anything like that. I've never been involved with that side of things at all. So anything I throw out there on that side, I'm just kind of making up. Yeah, there's nothing I'd really want to commit to saying on the subject at this time.
Okay. Michelle?
Likewise, I don't know a whole lot about the laws about serving alcohol and consuming alcohol. I'm a non-drinker. I have zero interest in alcohol for myself. I do recognize that it is a really good moneymaker for us at events. But people should be adults to handle their own alcohol consumption and deal with the fallout if they're going to be jerk faces while they're drunk.
All right. So my quick little notes just personally are that I personally don't need alcohol at AmpGuard to have fun at AmpGuard. So if alcohol disappeared, it wouldn't be a hurt to me personally. It would just be a hurt to the organization as far as like its revenue generating component. But I wouldn't be sad if alcohol wasn't there on a personal note. My experience with the laws and rules are also dated. Realizing that's probably about a decade old now since the last time I looked at any of that stuff. But I think there's a limited amount of liability that really would go to an organization for somebody doing something in the vein that spurred this discussion. So it's not like we blame the bar, for somebody. I don't know. I don't think that's where we were headed with that conversation. Would you guys like to try to get a committee started to explore this further, or do you think it's worth exploring as an organization? What do you think, Victor? Do you think that was what the angle or the request really was, is for us to explore this further?
I think if anything, since it's obvious that it's been a couple of years, we probably need a refresher.
A refresher of looking at the laws as an organization and our role in that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a touchy subject. Let's make sure we're on top of it.
Okay. Would you be willing to head up basically forming that committee and pulling the resources that you need to give us a review on it?
Yeah, I can do that. Who would you want to participate in it? Just anyone and everyone, or kind of stick towards the people that have that kind of background?
I guess I would leave that up to you to decide to what extent. I mean, if you got people that have experience, that would definitely be helpful. Do note there's a difference between, a bartender and what we're doing. But if you got interested parties, if you have volunteers, yeah, free labor, right? For doing the legwork, looking the stuff up.
Yeah, I'd recommend you keep it small. The goal is to just research.
Yeah.
What statutes and liability apply to us, right?
Right.
So, I mean, most of this could probably be solved with a call to the Alcohol Control Board.
Which then I can look at the little box that has Logan's face on it and be like, hey, that's an outside organization liaison officer.
I'll do it if you want me to. I mean,
I'll let Victor.
I think the committees are allowed to call people themselves, but if they don't want to, I will.
Okay.
What kind of time frame do you want me to get back?
If it was possible by next meeting, 2 weeks from today, that'd be awesome. But,
I was thinking more of
two
meetings now?
2 meetings a month out. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we have no events that we'd be serving alcohol between now and then, so there's no ramification on that sense. No issue there. And that would be March 21st. Cool. All right. So our next item on the agenda, assuming I can move on And 3, 2, 1. Nope, moving on. Was the Alaska State Fair bid, but we're tabling that for next time. We're going to check with the person that was planning to give us one. But in the meantime, if anybody felt so inclined to submit a bid for running the Alaska State Fair, those are currently open because I've received none yet. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, shoot me a message. I can even point you in the direction of some people that can help you put a bid together if you are unsure. If you've got the enthusiasm and drive but just don't know how to apply it, we can find a way to help everybody. All right, next item. Hadlin's not around, right, Jason?
No, she's in a lesson right now.
Okay, that is unfortunate, but I will do my best for this. So we got approached by, who really cares what the chain was, but Inlet Towers. That's a hotel that's downtown in Anchorage here. There's a guy there, his name is Raymond, and he is coordinating and running this really kind of neat event. They're doing a thing on April 6th. That is a Saturday. Yeah, I got that date right? April 6th. That's a Saturday. So, how to best describe it? They are running. It's kind of like. All my words are escaping me. It's
like a pop-up theme event.
It's like a pop-up event that where the people that buy tickets and show up, they get to kind of do some light role playing. It's a mixture of some super simplified D&D 3.5 rules, and they get to go around and do some in-person role playing experiences throughout the hotel. And they've involved the Three Barons Ren Fair folks. As far as I understand, they've committed to helping these guys with this. And Hadlin and I decided to go ahead and give them the thumbs up and say that we would help do it. Our commitment for this particular event is fairly light and small. And so that commitment specifically is that we would run basically a fighting ring like we do at the Alaska State Fair and Three Barons Fair. So a little bit of light, sparring or dueling in a fighting ring, and that we would run potentially a light kind of monster encounter. So if somebody wanted to dress up as any kind of monster, I had some pictures from DC on my phone that I showed him, some various people that had dressed up really with awesome stuff, and he got really excited about that. So running one of the rooms where people get to come in and do a little bit of a light fight, kind of a role play fight with them. And then the third obligation component was possibly selling some swords. So it was actually a way for us to generate a little revenue if we wanted. So we might have a little sword or weapon booth. Trying to think if there's anything else we were doing. No, so on April 6th, there's going to be two roughly 3-hour-long sessions that they're running, roughly from 2 p.m. to 5:30-ish, and then from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., give or take. They're a little fuzzy on the times because it's kind of, a group of moving people throughout a hotel, trying to get everybody through this series of like 20-ish quests that they can go do. Ours are the only physically involved components as far as I'm aware. All the others are kind of verbal engagements with various cast members from the Three Barons Fair folks and their team. So Hadlin and I thought it was a really awesome opportunity for us to kind of get some exposure with a different group, build up some good, relationship with the Inlet Towers. And then possibly we're thinking about negotiating for use of some of their conference room space at a future time. So this is kind of an FYI for you guys, and or if you have any concerns or issues regarding that, or if you guys have members that might be interested in helping us do something, give them the lowdown, give them the rundown of what this event is. And, especially Lupin Moon and Ravenstone, that's the easy folks. If if somebody in Frozen Coast, or I guess even up in Fairbanks and Astral Winds, had a lot of interest in participating in something like this, or in this event, sorry, not something, and specifically this event, let me know, and we might be able to negotiate getting a room for them to stay in the hotel overnight, so they don't have to like try to get back home the same night or anything. Raymond, if I remember correctly, was amenable to the idea of getting them a room for the night if they were helping run the event, if they were volunteering for it. So he's really excited for it. I think his main pitch was, I want to come do Antguard with you guys. I love seeing you guys at the fair, but I work too much, and so I'm making you all come to me. And so he wants to run a really cool thing in his hotel there. Do you guys have any questions or concerns about that? No.
What were the dates on that?
It is specifically April 6th.
It sounds pretty awesome. A good way to, integrate with the community.
Yeah, it's a little different from what we've done. It's a little different, but I think we can make it work. And then honestly, like depending on how it goes, and if they keep doing it, we could expand. I think it could be an opportunity for growth. It could be a thing because he wants to do it year after year if it works out. So,
well, and trying different things is how we grow, right? Like that's what we have to do to expand.
Yep. All right. Moving on. So, fundraising ideas. I put that down. It was kind of following the Inlet Towers discussion, which wasn't really much of a discussion. It was just me rambling. So, fundraising ideas. Somebody brought up, I think it was Hadeland again, the idea of a paint and wine night, but it would have to be in the Anchorage area, so I flagged it under Lupin Moon. But she's not here to really talk about it. So I'm going to table that discussion unless somebody wants to take the torch for that one right now. No. Okay. So we're going to table that one. And then I got a list from Victor of all these cool things that are going on in Frozen Coast's area. Do you want me to just run down the list, or do you want to talk about them? My main question for each of them is going to be, how can we support you, and what do you need from us to find success? So I can run through the list if that's useful.
Honestly, if we're just going to do that, you'll be supporting us. I imagine this will be coming out of the small budget, because all of these we don't really need any kind of budget with. Especially if I followed the last rain correctly, were we getting swords kind of built up? Or I know that was in the budget.
So the way we have kind of leaned towards doing that is it's hard to get people to volunteer consistently with good labor and good results of building stockpiles of weapons just for a general inventory. And so we have split that up basically to be done by the heads of, the autocrats of events. And so basically for the Three Barons Fair, for example, Mara is going to be heading up construction of that. And since DC is over, in theory, she's starting to rally her troops and her folks to have that those construction parties kind of started. And so that is a part that gets kind of screwy for the small events because there isn't a stockpile to draw from. Where if, we somehow had a general inventory of them, it'd be much easier to just say, hey, give me 50 swords. I'll sell 3 of them this weekend and, go from there. At various points, we had discussions on things. I'm trying not to derail the conversation too much, but we had discussions about the idea of like buying bulk chunks of weapons from either White Bear Leather or from outside sources. But I don't think we've made much progress on that. There is a stockpile of some resources, I think, with Lucian. And knowing his situation, he might like the idea of helping clear his garage of those extra resources here soon. So that might be somebody to check with. and see how many are
Gotcha.
prepaid or how many, what do you got for raw resources to use.
There also might be a case or two of swords left over from the state fair in my trailer.
Okay, so that might be.
We have some too. I don't have the exact number. I'm gonna say 50 plus.
See, and you guys might want to keep. Well, at least up in Fairbanks, you might want to keep those for your, events. And maybe if depending on how many you find with Lucian, maybe we'll still get you some from the Anchorage area, depending on what you need for your events. So,
I don't imagine it would be much, but
if I just get some materials, I could replenish the ones we sold last year. I can easily pump out those swords for my own fair. I think we sold maybe 40. I don't remember the exact. We didn't sell anywhere near 100, and I feel like maybe if I change the covers a little bit, it might be a little more lucrative.
Well, there's budget for that. So if you get like estimates of what you want to spend and how you want to do it and submit it to us, we can probably get that approved and get you set up and get access to some funds. Up in Fairbanks specifically, you might check with Ernie. At one point, I remember hearing that he had some leftover materials from one of the events, so that's just somebody else to check with and make sure there's not extra stuff floating around somewhere.
Copy.
All right. Did you want to go over the specific events, Victor, or do you want to just keep that with your local group and make sure that they're all aware?
Well, yeah, specifically, there's one that we're going to kind of need to puzzle together here. That's the Ninilchik Fair. In order to be in that fair, we got to have our location set by March. I don't know if you saw that photo I shared in the chat, but I think it was like March 15th, 16th, somewhere around there. But it doesn't happen until April.
Okay.
So whoever's doing the event is going to be jumping reins. Or August. That's right.
Oh, it happens in August, not in April?
Correct. August.
Oh, okay.
So the location has to be purchased in March, but the event doesn't happen until August.
Well, you totally have the authority because in this situation, you are filling you are not Victor, you are the monarch for Frozen Coast, and that position will continue to exist into August. So if you assign that to somebody, don't have any reservations about that. Find somebody to do it, and don't worry about the fact that it's jumping to August. Trust me, whoever's filling the seat in August is going to be happy that they got somebody already up and ready to go.
And then on the 4th of July, I think there's like a $60 site fee. We'd probably be good with that.
Okay, that totally fits within the small events budget. Is that
That's what I was thinking.
Do you typically make that money back pretty easily even if not, that's a good advertising thing too. So
you definitely make it up in the fighter's ring. The last couple of years, swords have been a little bit hard to sell or at least make a profit off of. But it really depends on what swords you're selling, I think.
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like you guys got a lot of little things, a lot of little community things that you guys participate in. And yeah, as you need the funds, just note it, work with Cameron, get that money flagged properly and get those things set up. And delegate. Don't put it all on yourself too, because you got a lot of little events.
Oh, dude, I'm all about delegating this reign. It's awesome.
Delegating. All right. Does anybody have any other questions about small events or fundraising ideas that they want to bring up tonight?
Yes, since Hadelin's not here.
Okay.
So her and I were chatting after I got back from Symposium down in Winter's Edge. For you guys that don't know, that's their version of Grand Academy. They held their fourth year this year. And whenever I travel to events like that, I am reminded that Northreach has a long way to go in various parts of its ANS culture. And to that end, I was talking to her about how it would be feasible to fly up a variety of instructors rather than just a sword knight, like we traditionally do. A couple master garbers, just serpent knights in general, things like that. And so some of these small fundraising ideas that she was talking about, she wanted to ask the CoC if those could be specific fundraisers for Grand Academy, or if you guys would sort of preemptively allocate the funds to Grand Academy. But it would be really great to be able to fly up like a total of 3 instructors, right? And so I'm not really sure if that's something you guys want to do, or if so, what the right path for making that happen would be. But I know that when they fly me down there, I think they covered up to $400 of my plane ticket. So we could look at options like that, and I think there are some really great folks that would be open to that. There are some really amazing serpent knights that would be cool to have all to ourselves for a weekend. So that's something that I know she wanted the CoC to discuss.
Would that be best done by having a Grand Academy bid specifying those amounts and having that as a plan, and then if we vote to go with that, then we'll use that as the carrot, saying this is what we're fundraising for.
If this is something, whatever you guys want should go in the request for bid. So if you want to fly up instructors, or to include like some instructors that will help add something to the event that just Northreach isn't capable of adding, then that should be in the request for bid. You should say any bids must include this consideration. And then we just fundraise to help make that happen, or we just allocate more funds to it, however you guys want to do that. So you could just do general fundraising and then vote to spend more money on Grand Academy, or you could vote to have specific Grand Academy fundraising. I think either way would accomplish it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If we're going to go that route, let's do the fundraising now and then just make that an expectation of the bid.
That's fair. So what types of things do we want to... I mean, we still need the fundraising ideas. I mean, we're finding ways to spend the money that we don't have yet.
Hadelin's list was pretty cool because she found out about the paint nights, and I don't have all the details on that, but essentially we can host one of those events that, I don't know, they're really super popular with millennials right now, where they go and they drink wine and they paint birch trees or something, and it's just a big social room full of people giggling and drinking wine and trying to paint and not having any idea what they're doing. And then we could potentially, if we set it up right, like we could sell the booze at that and make money off of that as well. So there's different ways to approach that could be money makers. But she talked to me about it for about 5 minutes, so I don't have all the details. But those kinds of things could be good fundraisers.
All right, so we should be on the lookout for more fundraising ideas, because we got some cool things that we want to spend money on. But speaking of, I'm going to move on away from these and more to discrete ideas. The inflatable archery booth. That made it through in the budget. We budgeted, $1,300 for that? That is a way for us to generate money at all sorts of events, including small things that Frozen Coast runs, and big things like the Three Barons Ren Fair and Alaska State Fair. So the inflatable archery booth, we were looking at having. Somebody was asking if we could run it maybe for the Inlet Towers event, but they definitely wanted to have it by Three Barons Fair, and so that would be June. Cameron, I know I'm putting you on the spot, and you don't have access to the bank account yet. Is that correct?
Sorry, go back to the question.
Well, so I hadn't gotten to the question. I was building up to it. Do you have access to the bank account so that we can have the financial answer to the question of when can we afford to drop money on something like the archery booth?
Give me 1 moment.
Okay.
Because having access to the website is a very different thing than being able to walk into a branch and actually write a check or something.
Actually, yeah. So you got passwords and things. So you have power.
Yeah. So I have, aside from the regional accounts, I have one account labeled Business Savings and one account labeled Northreach, and I really don't know what the difference is between them as far as why one is one and one is the other. I have a meeting with Mara tomorrow that will hopefully explain everything that I will need to know about such things. So.
Okay. So I guess I think our question or my question for you is going to be, and you don't have to answer this tonight, but put the notion of spending money on this archery booth kind of up there on the radar, and tell us when we can afford to do that. The soonest we can do it.
So just for some quick info, I just reposted the link to that on the Council of Crowns site. And it says right now that if you ordered it today, you could expect it by March 11th. So it looks like their shipping times are pretty fast. That's 3 weeks.
Okay, so what was the cost on that one again?
Look at it right now. If we have the archery equipment, if we buy the bows and arrows, it's $13.98, and that includes shipping.
Okay. Well, as far as balances and accounts, the money's there.
Oh, it is.
What that would affect in terms of what commitments we currently have for that money, I'd have to do more investigation as far as like what we're planning on paying in site fees, etc., over the next couple of months.
Right. So check site fees. Maybe get the taxes kind of most of the way lined up in case any unforeseen things show up in that. A little bit of responsible budgeting.
Yeah.
But yes, because I think the sooner the better for the archery range. So that's basically what that item was on there for, and so that all those questions basically fall to Cameron to hash out for us about when we can get it, unless you guys have any concerns or questions about postponing that for any reason. Oh, I'm going to take that as a no and move on. Last item on the agenda for tonight, at least for what I've prepped. Everblocks. That passed. That was the all thing decision. Holy smokes. I didn't quite see that coming, to be honest. I think a number of us didn't either, but that's the way the votes fell.
So I just have some really awesome commentary on that, because I'll tell you right now, people all over Amtgard were watching that discussion.
Oh, really?
I had so many people talk to me about giant Legos while I was out of state. Like, it was ridiculous. I had conversations all weekend long about that, and they were great. And I had a number of people point out that, like, that was the Northreach drama. I said, I don't know what your kingdom's doing, but if that's the most dramatic thing you have going on, then you got to be doing something right. Right. So that was really cool.
We're going to buy big Legos, and they're bigger than any Legos you got in any other kingdom.
It was, well, I mean, that was like, if you look at like the last year, that was the most passionate and involved conversation we've had online, and it was about Legos, which is cool. Like, I mean,
it's good. It's good. So I think the point that we're at right now is very similar to the inflatable archery booth. If Cameron could get a grasp on like where we will be and what the money flow will look like, kind of as we enter summer, but leading up to, but not passing Wolf's Cry. I think we should be trying to figure that out, and then we should, as we get that grasp on what the budget's going to look like and how the flow is going to go for the money, then we can look at what kinds of additional funds, the $2,500 or more, if we want to devote more money towards that from other line items that we might not be spending as much money on. For example, the Connex.
Yeah, and another thing that we want to consider too is that with this particular product, the more we can buy at once, the cheaper it will actually be for shipping.
Exactly.
And another thing for the organization to consider is Hadeland, I believe in May, will be driving to Michigan to pick up a horse. So in theory, you might be able to throw some money at her to put a couple of pallets of Legos on there and bring them back. And that might be cheaper amounts of money to throw than you would for a commercial shipper.
Could be interesting. Do they, I don't remember what, we can look this up later. I was going to say, did they have like free shipping somewhere in the U.S.? Alaska was just.
I don't think they have free shipping, but I mean, shipping it to Michigan will obviously be way cheaper than shipping it all the way to Alaska.
Okay, could be.
I mean, that's like 2 states over. So.
Yeah. But the idea here is that it's something that we'll want to pool our money and do one big bulk order and not try to spread it out to get the biggest bang for the buck there. And that does just put a crimp. It's another draw of our resources away from things such as Grand Academy and stuff like that. And there's a limited amount of fundraising things that we can do in any given time frame. And so if we're raising extra funds specifically for Everblocks, takes away from other things. So something to keep in mind for the populace and all of us as we kind of plan this out. Where do our priorities lie and what do we want to emphasize on this year? Just because we spend all of our money on Everblocks this year doesn't mean that like next year's Grand Academy can't be this big, massive, thing that dwarfs over, other kingdoms' ANS events. Big dreams, aspirations, right? Aim big. So anyways, I'm going to leave that question kind of floating there for next time with Cameron so that he has an opportunity to kind of get a picture of what our money flow situation looks like and when we can start spending money. Because just because it was in a budget item doesn't mean the money's sitting in the bank account yet. Does anybody have any other items that they'd like to add for tonight? Discuss tonight? Any concerns, any issues? No? Okay. So I'm going to shut down the stream, but everybody should stay online for other reasons. So thank you everybody watching at home and have a good evening.